We are being joined today by artist and author Michael Tolleson Robles. And he is an amazing gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting many years ago. You know who introduced me to him? It was Joanne Laura, my good friend Joanne Laura, because she was having him perform at the Temple Grandin and Friends event that she did at the Nokia Theater a million years ago. And then so I got to see Michael paint, which was life-changing, right? And I got to meet him briefly, and we stayed in contact. And then I had the pleasure in New Orleans a million years ago. It was 2016. We had booths at the Autism Society of America conference in New Orleans. And so our booths were just like sitting catty corner to each other. And, you know, there's down times in between rushes. So I got to spend like 4 days with Michael and hang out with Michael. And I got to watch him paint. I'd be in my booth and he'd be in his booth and he'd be painting, and I'd be talking to parents and I'd be, look what he's painting over there. But he is a lovely, lovely human being and a brilliant painter. So I hear that Michael is here. Can we get him to start his camera and his sound, Traven? There he is.
There I am.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I was just saying how much I adore you and what a wonderful person you are and what a brilliant painter you are. And how I was just reminiscing about the fact that it was Joanne Laura who introduced me to you. And so we're remembering Joanne very fondly this morning because you're just one of the many gifts that Joanne presented to me. So first of all, Michael, how are you?
I'm having a lovely time in Mexico.
Well, we have to talk a little bit about that because you did move to Mexico and have opened your studio there. Is this your studio where you're at right now?
This is it.
It's beautiful. I'm loving that orange wall, but I'm loving the paintings on it more. And your story, I just don't even know where to begin. So tell our viewers a little bit about you and when you discovered that you were A, on the spectrum, and B, a brilliant painter.
Well, I don't know about the brilliant painter, but
I said so. I said so. When did that happen?
Yeah, truthfully, I was trying to be a loving husband, and my partner was doing charcoals and pastels. I wanted him to paint. I said, please paint, and he wouldn't paint. He would do charcoals and pastels. So I finally said, okay, if you paint, I'll paint. Oh. And I thought that I would put myself on the line, be vulnerable. And what happened is we could both paint. And not only could we paint from the first paintings we painted, which is the gifts of autism. That is the savant abilities we have within us. Now, at that point, I'm already in my early 50s, and I've never painted. My third painting was in a gallery in Houston, sold for $4,100.
Wow.
And
wow.
But the thing is, I'm autistic. I don't know. The thing is, for those of us on the spectrum, unless we have a point of reference, we have no way of making sense of the information. So here I am. I'm getting in art galleries. I have less than 20 paintings. I'm getting in art galleries. I'm selling art. I'm painting paintings in just a very short period of time. It's normal. It's normal because who do I have to compare it with? No one. I don't live in an artist community. I don't have association with galleries. I don't know that I am unique in any way. Well, it's been 8 years of painting, and probably at this point I'm at 1,500 paintings.
Wow.
And usually, if they're very abstract, kind of the horses that you've seen a lot of.
Oh yeah.
They're done in under an hour. If they're more detailed, they may take me 2, maybe 3 hours if I really fuss with them. But that's unheard of. It's just unheard of.
I think what's crazy to me, Michael, in the time that I've known you, first of all, when you performed at that Nokia event, the Temple Grandin and Friends event, I want people to understand they had a musician who was on the stage, and they put a ginormous canvas on the stage and a bunch of buckets of paint. And in under 12 minutes, Michael, he would paint with like 4 paintbrushes at a time. And he was throwing paint on the canvas while we listened to the music. And it was fascinating to watch him work. But I just thought it was going to be, a Pollock, if you will, that it was going to be like just a mess of colors, and it was beautiful. And then all of a sudden you heard it go through the audience. People like, I love to go to horse racing events because you hear the murmur, murmur, murmur as they come around the final turn, and you heard people go, and the audience just started, I'm getting goosebumps remembering it. The audience just started cheering because on the canvas appeared this horse, this Technicolor, beautiful rainbow horse that was as clear. I mean, it was just crazy, Michael, and everybody went nuts. It was just so fabulous. And it was like, how on earth, it was performance art. It was absolutely amazing. So I was like, wow, this guy is so talented. He's so wonderful that he can just do this. But then over the years, as I've watched you do like crazy realism too, Michael, it's just like, I just don't know where your talent ends. It's just like the horizon on it keeps moving. And I've watched you go through different periods where, that you've got your horses, and we can see some of them behind you. But then you went through a series of people with umbrellas in the rain. Michael, they're just so fabulous. They're my favorite. And then a couple of years ago, you got into your woman alone phase. Oh, goodness. I mean, it's just, and now I'm looking at these clouds behind you. What is that a new phase you're doing? Michael.
No, I love, well, here's the thing. Autism. Everyone thinks we don't feel, that we are so just like void of emotion. The opposite is true. I'm so empathic. I feel things, and I feel them so deeply. So, we're going through some rough times. It's, right now, I moved after the election, I moved out of the country. We have a pandemic. We have all these things that are so impactful. And for those of us that are empathic, they're so hurtful. I mean, we are feeling the pain of the world. So the rain paintings come about because there's someone that is walking in the elements protected. And the umbrellas are my symbol of whatever we hold that protects us, whether or not it's faith, whether or not it's science, whether or not it's family. That is what protects us. And sometimes, like I just did a really lovely painting of an older woman and man walking, and they're protected together as a unit. And so that's where that came about. The women's series came about because I feel a real affinity for women. Women are able to express emotion. Men, it's a terrible thing. Men are castrated to the point of not being able to be emotional. And that's what society does to them. So while I'm very emotional and why I'm really connected to my emotions, I'm not going to find anyone that I can look at and say, that's the emotion I'm feeling when I look at a male. I feel it in females. So even though the female that I paint has all these emotions, it is emotions that travel throughout humanity, male and female. It's just men will not show it. So I love showing the feelings in women.
I love it. Well, we have to talk about the fact that you have your gallery, but people can view paintings online and even purchase your paintings online. You are a very well-known and received artist now, so your paintings are not inexpensive. They are prized art. So
well, I don't know. We have COVID pricing now.
Oh, well, still, I'm just going to be honest that, for a lot of us, you are also very generous, and you frequently donate paintings to be auctioned and things like that. And for some of us, that might be where we have the potential to own your artwork. But it is art, and it is very valuable and remarkable. but I have to say, it's that you have in these phases, I think there's something for everyone. Just absolutely stunning. I saw one the other day that you did. In fact, I think I put it on our postcard that I don't, I want to say that there wasn't a human being in it, but it was like a landscape with, it looked like a farmhouse across a field.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, now Michael's doing that kind of thing too. I'm just always interested to see where you go next. It's fascinating.
Well, we're autistic. And the thing is that we get bored. That's the thing. It's such an oxymoron. On the one hand, we love routines. Like when I get up and I make my coffee in the morning, every little thing is exactly where it goes because that's where it goes when I make coffee. And I know where to get the spoon and I know where the sugar is and I know where the pods are. But when we express ourselves, we're bored. So particularly for my art, for where I go, I mean, here I am, 1,500 paintings. I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to do what you saw in any of the events I'm in. You're not going to see me that recreate it over and over and over again. I can't do it.
Right. Why would you? Yeah.
Oh, I just die. I would just die. I mean, I can't even vacuum the floor because it's doing it twice. Or make a bed. It's lucky I'm living in Mexico. I can have someone make my bed for me. So it's so for me, the art evolves and I'm constantly pushing. And it's weird because it's a savant gift. I didn't train, it's just there. So what I wind up doing is I say, I'm going to challenge myself today to paint whatever. And sometimes it is really, really intricate. And I'm thinking, well, how am I ever going to paint lace, a sheer lace on an arm? But the autism does it. I've never done it before, but it paints it. Wow. If you say I'm a great painter, which you had
I think you're a beautiful, fabulous, talented, exquisite painter.
But I'm not. I'm a vessel. I'm a vessel that holds a brush and autism paints.
Well, I honor that you are allowing it. And I want for the people who are listening and watching the show today to hear this, because a lot of times, parents get frustrated because they haven't found out what their kid's interest is when they're 7. And to hear you say that you didn't find it until in your 50s, what was your life like before you found painting and before you knew that you were on the spectrum?
Well, it's funny you asked that because just recently, within the last couple of months, I've been approached to write my memoir.
Yes.
And it was an independent publisher that works on books that actually impact humanity. Mm-hmm. So they only do a couple of books a year and they stand behind them and they come with book tours and lecture tours and all of that. But my story is so interesting that I was asked to write my life. Now, I'm going to tell you, to revisit everything within a lifetime and to refeel all those emotions is a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
The ultimate thing is you're seeing who I became. But what was before was traumatic. I was abandoned by a birth mother. I had adopted parents that were cold and distant. I had sexual abuse by an elementary school janitor, and it went on for like 3 years. I was also had some sexual abuse by an uncle. Because I'm autistic and because I'm in pain, because of not being diagnosed and being confused and being on the high functioning, high IQ side, I didn't fit in. And so through the 80s in New York City, I drank and drugged myself to self-medicate. I'm not an addict, but I was very, very lonely and very, very hurt. So I spent a great deal of my time drinking and drugging. Now, as far as New York, I had really interesting times. I was running around with people from the Village People and people out of movies and Grandpa Munster.
You've got stories, Michael. I can't wait to read this book. You've got stories.
But the thing is, like you said, it's like, what was my life like? Typical person that functions within the neurotypical world. 2 to 3 years on any job, usually a different type of job because we get bored, so we want to be re-challenged with something else. We're very high IQ, so we assimilate and we learn the job very quickly. Uh, but then because we ascend so quickly in a company, then our bosses get threatened, and then they start worrying about whether or not we're going to go after the job.
Wow.
We don't socialize. We won't go into a conference room and eat pizza with everybody and talk about T-ball and cell phone plans. So
Yeah.
we take our food and we run to our little cubicle or wherever it is, and we hide. We hide from people. We don't want to socialize. Meanwhile, we're brilliant in our job, but what it amounts to is when it comes time to let someone go, no one's getting warm and fuzzies over me because I'm not socializing. I'm the
Right.
person let go. And if
Wow.
I'm not let go, then I will have done everything within that particular job description to the point that now I'm bored and I want a new challenge and I'll quit anyway. So I've done wallpaper hanging. I was a paint contractor. I was a warehouse manager. I was a liaison in New York between a design company and the architects. Uh, I did some light construction. I did retail.
It's so interesting because all of those things sort of will, help you to be a better painter, but it's a very circuitous route to it, right?
Well,
Or those hidden painting skills were adding value to what you were doing. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's kind of fascinating. And I hope that people hear this because I know that there are folks that are on the spectrum that are watching that haven't found their place like you have found. They haven't found their happy place. And I want them to hear that sometimes it doesn't come easy and
okay.
sometimes it doesn't come early.
This is what I say, and I say it every time I do a keynote, anytime I have a chance to talk to a group. I found my light in my 50s.
Mm,
I didn't even know I had a light.
mm.
So when you have a parent who's looking at their child, when there's just an autistic by themselves feeling isolated or without value, there is something within us. Each of us has it. I don't
Mhm.
know when we'll find it. I was in my 50s. In addition to that, I also found my husband, who's
Yeah.
also autistic, who's also an artist, who's also brilliant in my 50s. The first healthy relationship I've had.
But to put a fine point on it, he also did not know. He also did not have a diagnosis, but he was dabbling in art a little bit, or did he not know he was an
That was
artist
the
either?
charcoals and pastels. So we both started to paint at the same time. He's a brilliant artist. And,
Yeah.
the thing is that I think for those of us with autism, we need people that understand we're different. And then instead of trying to change us into their normal, if they'll look at us, nurture us, give us the tools we need to find our gifts,
Yeah.
that's what we need. Give us patience, give us room, give us isolation if that's what we need in order to reboot, to be able to do something to 100%.
Yeah.
We're just not given the tools that we need usually. I've known families that have tried to help their children be normal. Well,
Yeah.
normal is what's in us.
Yeah.
Normal is what we get up feeling every day. We don't need to be normal like everybody else. We need to be our normal. And
Yeah.
part of that means that everyone else has to recognize a different normal and respect it.
Yeah.
And
Amen to that.
for all of them. I mean, for
When,
all of them. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, 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 no. No, honestly, I love what you're saying, and you know that I agree with you 100%, 100, a million percent. When I first met you and was getting to know you, you were going through a rough patch because you are in several different categories in which you could easily be misunderstood.
Absolutely.
I don't know which words you use, but you are, do you use the word gay? What word do you use?
I use gay. I'm old school. It's back in my day there was gay, lesbian, and now of
Right.
course there's so many other designations, and there is respect to different views. Now, the
Exactly.
one thing that I don't know if you know it, but I know a lot of people are not aware of this. The LGBT community has a higher percentage per capita in the gay community, in the autistic community than in the general population.
Yes. In fact, we're going to be covering a news story tomorrow that talks about the fact that individuals who are on the autism spectrum are more likely to be transgender than the general
Absolutely.
population. And that there's a very definitive study that's come out on this. And I don't know if you have seen the short film, Boys Don't Wear Dresses, that was done by friends of ours. And we just were talking about this recently on the show, about the fact that the autism community needs to wake up to this. Parents need to wake up to this and be aware of this. And I want, for us to be accepting our kids where they are, who they are.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Here's what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of gender fluid autistics. And I think one of the reasons is society cannot put us in a box because we're already out of the box. So in that way, when someone says, little boys do this, little girls do that, this is who you're attracted to, this is how you date, we don't get it. We don't get it. If we're allowed to be the normal we are, we tend to be very fluid. And particularly the women I find in the autistic community are very fluid. They fall in love with a soul. And then that soul is in a vessel, and then they figure out what to do with the vessel. Because the vessel is only a vessel.
Yeah.
When you fall in love, it's with a soul to soul. And I think that we're so fortunate. The autistic community is so fortunate to be able to be at a place where they can say, okay, I am attracted to that person. I don't know what it is about them. And they can pursue it without worrying what their mother, father's going to say, what society's going to say, what the preacher's going to say. Who cares? I'm in love.
Yeah. And that should be celebrated. And I'm sure that there are some of our viewers who are watching or listening who find themselves feeling uncomfortable right now. And I want to say to those folks, and I want to hear what you want to say to them too, Michael, but I want to say, if you're uncomfortable, own it and ask yourself why, and start to dig into why that is. But I think it's important, if you're uncomfortable, if any of us are uncomfortable, we need to look at ourselves and not hang that uncomfortable on anyone else.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes.
We are our own people. All of us are our own individual people. I happen to have an 11-year relationship with an autistic man who also is an artist, but he's a man and I'm a man. And the two of us have found love and a relationship that even my straight friends sometimes envy.
Yes.
The thing is that no one's asking anyone to change themselves. We're just asking to be respected for who we are. So the thing is, anyone can be uncomfortable. Yes, own it. But then own it and say, even though I'm uncomfortable, I have no right to change another person. I have no right to try to drag someone into my normal when their normal is they're in love with the same sex, or someone transgendered, or who knows? There are so many variables.
I think when the world does good perspective taking, it's very clear. Because for me, all I have to think about is, what if the shoe were on the other foot and somebody was telling me that I was not allowed to love my husband, that those feelings were not appropriate? I would be lost. I would be absolutely lost. I would not want anyone to tell me what I could or couldn't feel about him. So I don't have the right to tell anyone else.
And what people have to understand about this particular period, or what they may be feeling, this is not a new scenario. This has been a long history of, you cannot love someone of a different race. You cannot love someone of a different religion. You cannot love someone from a different country. This has a long history. And all of these things manifest themselves. But the bottom line is, do we respect people for their differences and allow them to be adults and have their own decisions in their life? And that's what we need to do. I don't need to do anything that anyone else does unless I want to do it. But then it's a responsibility for myself. And everyone should feel that. My responsibility, my life, everyone else is free to do what they do.
But you've sort of stepped into the public light and you have owned who you are in a way that is beautiful and empowering, Michael. You have owned that you love who you love. You have owned that you are someone whose brain works in a specific way because of autism. You have owned that you are a painter and that you are painting, what you think and see and feel, and you've been persecuted for it. Let's just say that
Oh,
you have been
absolutely.
bullied. You have had people who have not just thought things negative. You have had people say things and people try to hurt you and your livelihood as a result of it.
Absolutely.
And I've watched you, say, I'm not going to tolerate this. You left a community that was being inappropriate and rude and horrible, and you left the country. I mean, that's no small thing.
No, well, here's the thing. I'm biracial. I'm half Mexican. I'm half European descent. So I grew up in a Texas town with a railroad track running through town, separating the Mexicans from the Caucasians. Okay, so already I'm growing up in a weird place. I wound up being gay and recognized the first signs of it. I can really recognize at 6, 7, 8 years old. So I mean, it was there. It was there. I was autistic. Now, while that was not diagnosed, it was definitely something that isolated me and made me different. All of those things changed me and how I view other people. Now, while I was spinning around with a high IQ, my uncle, who was adopted into our family, was brain damaged and was very challenged. He gave me a way to understand that there's a spectrum that we all live in. And when I have a conversation with you right now, my way of talking with you is peer to peer. When I speak to my uncle, I don't change that. It's peer to peer. I change the way I speak in order to accommodate his comprehension. And that is respectful. When I'm at an autism event, a conference, whatever, I don't know who will be coming up to speak to me, but they should be respected for whoever they are and for whatever abilities they have and whatever comprehension they have at that time. That is truly what we should do. This is who we should be.
Yes. And I started by saying you're just a really lovely human being. You have an open heart. Anybody who stands within 10 feet of you feels it. And we see it all the time in your paintings. We've had technical problems this morning, and I don't know, Traven, whether you were able to put up some of the paintings or not. But Michael, we've got like 3 minutes left, less than that. We need to give the website so people can know where they can go to look at your paintings and have their breath taken away. So where do they go?
Okay, first of all, I am going to mention, yes, it is COVID, and yes, I'm being much more generous with my pricing. But okay, you are right. You're not going to get very low pricing. The other thing I do is I do offer layaways. So if someone wants to just pay as able, when they can put a few bucks down, I do it all the time. In fact, most of my paintings sell that way. Okay. The website is www.michaeltollesonartist.com. So it's MichaelTollesson artist, ARTIST.
Have I been pronouncing your last name wrong all these years? I've been saying Tolleson, but it's Tolleson?
Tolleson.
I beg your pardon. I've been saying your name wrong over and over and over again.
And actually, it's really funny because with Mexico, the names are paternal, maternal. So I'm able to use my mother's maiden name. So I'm Michael Tolleson Robles because I'm half Mexican heritage. And it's interesting that everyone here calls me Mr. Robles.
Interesting. So you're loving Mexico.
I am. The people are very giving, loving. Now, I have some pain about Mexico because the autism community is not supported the way it should. Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, I have this dream of maybe even starting a school
Okay.
here in order to assist. Probably someone as high functioning as I am wouldn't even be recognized as autistic in Mexico. And
Yeah.
people don't, it's Anthony Hopkins got diagnosed 10 years ago. Now, how do I explain to someone in Mexico, Anthony Hopkins is also autistic?
Yeah.
Uh, or even to a gift of this art. I mean, for them, it doesn't look like someone who has a challenge. So
No, and I remember, I mean, I saw you paint and I was like, okay. But then talking to you and I was like, okay, wow, because you are very articulate and you are very, I mean, a lot of the stereotypes that we think of having to do with deficits, you've overcome. You make great eye contact. I think you are
not
one
to
of the
my
more
20s.
okay, but you are one of the most social people. I watched you at a conference. You're one of the most social people I know. But I definitely spending time with you. I mean, I get to see and hear you are so articulate that you tell me how your brain is looking at things. And I go, oh, okay. See, my brain doesn't look at things that way.
And the thing is, okay, so we spend time at a conference. I have a 3-day social hangover after that.
Yeah. Can I be honest? I did too. We stayed that week in New Orleans. We stayed and for part of it, we just hung out in the hotel room because I needed to decompress from that. But I believe it because that was intense. That was a pretty good conference and that was intense. But Michael, we're out of time and I've so enjoyed this visit. And I want to, it's on my wish list to get down to Mexico and visit you and see what you got going on there because it just looks like your little slice of paradise. And it makes me so happy to know that you're there and safe.
Well, the Merida is the second safest city in the world behind Quebec City. And it is, there are no guns here. There's no crime here. The people are lovely.
Well, if things go wrong here in November, I might be sending my son to you. So I'm gonna stick him in a suit. I'm gonna stick him in a suitcase and send him to you and be like, Michael, keep my son while things calm down. Because it's a crazy world we live in. Crazy world we live in. Crazy time to have a 17-year-old. Ooh, not my favorite thing. But anyway, I love you. Please give my love to everybody there.
I will.
And I'm so glad that you guys are well and in your little cocoon, churning out beautiful works of art. It makes my heart pitter patter.
Very good. I hope everyone goes on the website. If nothing else, just to look at the art.
Oh, you got to look. We had some, but we were having trouble this morning interfacing with it. But go and look. You can only see a little bit behind you, but I'm telling you, go get your heart lifted and flutter around you for a little while and know that Michael's doing these fabulous things. We love you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.